Welcome back to part 2 of the story of my BSA B33, a wonderful bike. I love it. It's been very reliable and I just love those single cylinder pre-unit BSAs. I change the oil every 500 miles because it's an old bike, it's 60 odd year old, but a few months ago I started noticing a bit of swarf. I've got a magnetic sump plate on, and whenever I change the oil I noticed a bit of swarf on the magnet, so I knew something was wrong, or I suspected something was wrong. So I decided come the winter I would strip the top end down and have a look. When I stripped it down I found out that a circlip had come loose. I didn't build this engine, but a circlip had come loose, which meant the gudgeon pin started to move. It scored all the barrel, it ruined the piston. This was a standard bore BSA. It was a standard hepalite piston. It ruined the piston, it ruined the barrel, and it filled the engine full of swarf, so I've had to strip the engine. I've had to clean everything thoroughly, thoroughly wash the oil tank 10 times, and the same with the engine. The engine now has been flushed out, it's been cleaned. I'm waiting of a brand new old stock hepalite piston. I couldn't get a standard one, I've had to get a plus 21. I'm getting an engineer to re-sleeve the barrel to plus 20, which still leaves you many thousands of miles, because it can go plus 20, plus 40, plus 60 before you have to get it re-sleeved again. So there's lots of miles even on a plus 20. So this is the engine. It's been flushed and it's been cleaned up. In this second part I'm just going to put it together again, and hopefully we'll finish with it starting and with it running. A nice fine bead of silicone, and that's the crankcase is joined together. And I'm going to put a new gasket on for the oil pump and stick the oil pump in a minute, but I've got to wash it out first. I'm going to give it a good flush and then put the oil pump back in. That's the oil pump cleaned, flushed out. And that's the oil pump in. I've sent away for some studs to hold the magnetic drain plate. Instead of putting Allen keys in, I'm going to put studs in, because you have less chance of stripping these threads in the crankcase if you put a stud in. Okay, I've just put the woodruff key onto the main shaft. That's meshed in there now, and when I'm turning the shaft, the oil drive shaft is also turning. It's engaged. Lines up. Just pull the cam up. There's a dash on it. And there's the dash there. And just pull the cam up. Okay, the valve drive gear is in here, the two cogs and pinions. This one, which is the exhaust one, has got a dot on it, and that lines up with the dot on the main shaft. And the inlet one has got a dash on it, and that lines up with the dash on the main shaft there. Well, I've put the drive gear back in. It does have a little chip out of it, but I don't think it's going to affect anything, so that's going back in a minute. There's the plate to hold everything on. And you just get all the little nuts and bolts in, and then get it tightened up. Okay, we'll get the front engine mounting plates. I'll fit them before I put the engine in. It might make it a bit easier. And that's it. This is a bit of a work of art, trying to get an engine in on your own. This front engine mount is a really tight fit, getting the spacer in. And there we have it. I've just got the spacer in there. Really awkward job getting it in. It's a very tight fit, especially when you're doing it on your own, but nevertheless it's in now, so we'll get the rest of them in. And now we'll try and put the bottom spacer in there. Another awkward little job. It's like a jigsaw, this. Too far. I've got the other small bit to go in there. There's a tiny little bit goes in there. And there's that last little spacer there, you can just see it. Just tap the bolt through, and there she comes through. And that's the last of the engine mountings. And we'll get them tightened up. And that is the engine back in. Right, well, we've just received this package from the courier, so let's have a look and see what we've got. One genuine new old stock Hepalite piston, plus 20 with the BSA logo on it, for the princely sum of £188.40. Nothing is cheap when you want the genuine parts, but it's a proper stamped BSA part, so that will be going off tomorrow. I'll be taking it over to the guy who's doing the rebuild, and there we go. We're starting to get there. Right, I've come over to Engine Services to see about the barrel for the BSA, and I've got the piston, so hopefully you'll be able to sort everything out for me. And there we have them, the new barrel, re-sleeved. It looks gorgeous, re-sleeved and machined to take the new Hepalite piston, which is a plus 20. But all ready to go. The next stage is I'm going to get it powder coated with the cylinder head, and then we can start putting things together. Here's a couple of little bits of parts that arrived today from a company called Just Stainless, I think. I've got a new oil tank filter for the BSA, which has got a detachable filter. It screws in like that, which makes it much easier for cleaning. So I've got that to go on the B33, and the studs came for the sump, the magnetic sump plate. I did have it fitted with Allen keys, but Allen bolts, but I don't like to use Allen bolts because it can be so easy to over tighten them and strip the threads of the crankcase. So I've sent away for some stainless steel bolts, stick them in the crankcase. the sub plate will go on, and then there'll just be nuts holding it on. Good bit of kit, quality stuff. So we'll do that. The barrel and the cylinder head are away at the moment, being powder coated. Here we are, back from the powder coaters. Cylinder head, cylinder barrel, looking really good. Need a little bit of a clean up, just to dress all the surfaces up. For the princely sum, in this particular case, of £30 for both, which I think is really good. Hello there, I'm just reseating the valves, grinding them in. I've applied a little bit of coarse grinding paste to the surface. I'll follow it up with fine grinding paste, but more importantly, I've already done that with the cylinder head onto the barrel, because on a B33 there's no head gasket, and it relies very much on a good seal between the lip that comes out of the cylinder barrel fitting into the recess on the cylinder head. So you put a bit of paste on, give them a good grind, clean them up, clean all of the paste off, and then that allows for a good seal. I've already done that on here, so now I'm doing the valves. I'm assembling the cylinder head here. The exhaust valve is pitted around the edges and it's burnt. It's burnt out valve basically. So I've had to get a new exhaust valve. John, a friend of mine, is reseated. He's got a special tool for grinding in the valve seats. So that's what he's done. I managed to get a genuine BSA exhaust valve for about £28, which isn't bad considering it's a genuine part. So I'm going to put that in there, and then we'll have a lovely cylinder head when I fit the valve. So that's the next stage of the job. And now we'll put the rocker gear in. Starting with the inlet. Got a little hide hammer here, so we'll just get that squared up. And then the domed nuts with the copper washers on the end. So that's the inlet cam one. We'll get on to do the exhaust one now. And that's the exhaust rocker fitted. Just clean it up. So we've now got both the rockers fitted. And we've got the valves fitted, all looking very nice. I've also ground the head in with paste and matched it up to the cylinder barrel to make sure there's a good seal. So we've got that there ready to go. I'm just running a tap through the screw holes for the carburetor here to clear all of the shot blast and swarf that's still left inside after it was painted. So it's a 5/16 tap, and it's great for cleaning the threads out. Right, I've heated the piston up in the oven to make things a bit easier, and I'm now fitting the piston, screwing the gudgeon pin in. That's the circlips in, just fitted. Tricky little devils to get in, but obviously vitally important, because that's what caused the damage in the first place. A circlip coming loose on this side caused the damage, but hopefully that's in with the brand new piston. Well, that's the oil pipes reconnected, and the speedo drive reconnected with Doughty washers. Doughty washers there stop the little bit of oil that sometimes comes out. So that's that bit done. Just got the piston prepared before I put the barrel on. I haven't got a proper clamp for the rings, but I was told that a Jubilee clip will do, so there we go. We've got the Jubilee clip with the rings held in, and now I've got to get the base gaskets on and then hopefully get the barrel on. Well, that's the barrel on, so I'm just going to remove the Jubilee clip now that I was using as a piston ring compressor. Right, I'll take the wooden piston supports out and support this barrel. Had a little bit of a problem putting the cylinder barrel on. I couldn't get a tight seal up against the crankcase here. I took it off a couple of times, and then I took a little bit of advice, and I was advised to just put the cylinder head on and bolt it up, or bolt it down and leave it like that, and then take the cylinder head back off again to do the timing and to put the push rods in and everything. So that's what I've done, and it's worked. It's actually bolted it down okay, so that's fine. We're just assembling the cylinder head here. I'm just putting the gland nut in, push rod in the push rod tube. I've got the head on in the push rod tube, and I'm just tightening the head bolts a little bit at a time, so we've got to pull down nice and evenly all the way around. That's the tappets set, and the tappet cover on with just a tiny smear of silicone just to keep it oil tight. Next thing is we'll try and get the mag dyno back on. I'll just put the bolt on the securing strap. Well, it's been a good day today. We've got the cylinder barrel on, we've got the push rod tube, we've got the push rods, we've done the tappets. If I come around this side, we've got the mag dyno on. I've checked the points, I've done the timing, I've reconnected the oil pipes here. I've put on the engine head steady. and I'm waiting for a gasket actually here for the crankcase before I can start putting the inner primary chain case on, but it's coming together quite well. Right, we've got the gasket for the inner primary chain case. I'm going to put some gasket seal on either side before I put it on. Now we've got some proper lock wire to put through the nuts here just to secure them. And that's it, that's the inner primary chain case secured with the locking wire. Well, I've had a little bit of a change of heart with the bike here. I put the old clutch back on. It's a 6-spring clutch, which doesn't have a good reputation anyway, the 6-spring clutch. But when I've had a look at the plates, the plain plates are quite thin and quite worn, and the friction plates aren't very good either. So I've taken some advice from experts, and they all tell me the thing to do is get a 4-spring clutch for these bikes. They say it's easier to select neutral. The clutch is nice and light, so I've bitten the bullet. I've sent away for a new clutch, so I'm going to take this one off again. I've sent away for an SRM 4-spring clutch, which is going to cost a fair bit of money. It's about £400. It's a lot of money, but it's a quality piece of equipment, so I'm waiting for that coming, so I'm going to take this off again. A little bit further forward today, I'm waiting of the SRM clutch unit coming, but in the meantime, I've got the rocker covers on, I've got the exhaust valve lifter connected, I've put the horn back on, genuine Lucas Altec horn. That's back on, so we're making pretty good progress. Hopefully the clutch won't take that long to come, and it'll be a better bike for having a SRM clutch. Let's hope so anyway. Well, that's the battery all connected up. Then the connection's wired in case the vibrate off. I've got a new spark plug in, I've put the carburetor on, and I've put the petrol tank on. So we're kind of getting there, just waiting for the SRM clutch. And she's looking good. And here we have the new 4-spring clutch. This is an SRM unit. Beautiful piece of engineering. A lovely clutch, all brand new plates, 4-spring. Supposed to be much lighter, easier to select the gears, easier to get neutral. And it was quite expensive. It was £420 for that. And when I came to have a look at it, it didn't have a push rod, so I had to send away for a piece of the metal for the push rod. That was another £17 from SRM. I know there's British made clutches on the market, complete, where you get everything for much less than this. Only time will tell whether I've made a good decision. it didn't have a lock and washer on it in the kit. So I phoned SRM up and said, look, you know, the clutch you've sent, there's no tab washer. And I was told, well, at SRM we don't use a tab washer, because if you torque the centre nut down to 65 foot-pounds, it should never come off. And if you want to make sure that it never comes off, put a bit of Loctite on. Because they say that if you put a tab washer on and when you torque it down to 65 pounds, it destroys the tab washer anyway. I'm not sure whether I go along with that story, so what I've done is I've sent away for a tab washer from another supplier. So it might be a fantastic clutch, it might be fantastically engineered, a nice bit of kit, but it came in a box with nothing in it, no instructions or anything. Nothing to say, oh, by the way, we don't give you a tab washer. It just came like that. So only time will tell what it's like. Hopefully it'll be worth every penny of the money. Just have to wait and see. Well, here we are trying to fit the SRM clutch here. I've put the inner primary on, and I've managed to put the clutch centre on there and located it. So the next step is there's a copper washer on, and now I'm going to put the bearings on like that, and to insert the 20 rollers in the cavity. So I'll do that now. And there we have the clutch chain wheel on with the 20 needle roller bearings fitted. We'll put the centre on next. Followed by the clutch centre. Right, we'll put the engine shock absorber on. Shock absorber spring and a very important tab washer. And that's the plates in. And now we'll put the centre of the SRM clutch. I'm putting a locking tab washer on. SRM don't recommend it, but I'm definitely putting one on. So the tab washer goes on and locates on the flat. And there we have the nut and the collar for the nut. So that can go on. And that spot on there, and I'll get the tabs bent over after I've tightened it up. The tab washer located, just ready to tighten up and to bend over to secure that nut. I'll get that on, and then I'll adjust the primary chain. That's the clutch centre nut torqued down to 65 foot-pounds, tab washer bent over to secure the nut. And on the engine shock absorber, you can just about see inside. I've managed to get in. It's very difficult just to bend the tab washer over a little bit to secure the shock absorber nut. Well, this is the SRM clutch. It's a bit of a puzzle. It didn't come with very good instructions. This is the old pushrod, and I figured out that the new pushrod, you have to cut 31 millimeters off the length of the original pushrod, which is this. So I got a new pushrod, I've cut 31 millimeters off, and I've put it in the tunnel there that goes through to the operating mechanism. And then you have a needle roller end which slots in there with the final plate and the springs, the tension springs on. So I comes to put the needle roller end on, and what do I find? one of the needle roller bearings is missing. There should be 7 in there and there was only 6. So I've had to stop the job, get onto SRM, very apologetic, and they're sending a new needle roller fitting that goes on the end of the pressure plate. So, postponed until the postman comes. Well, that's the SRM pressure plate on. I haven't adjusted it properly yet, and I've got to measure the length of the push rod. I have to say it's quite a bit of guesswork with this SRM thing. I did eventually get instructions. They didn't come originally. It mentions the BSA A50, A65 3 and 4 spring clutches on both sides. And down there in little writing it says BSA A7, A10 Gold Star and B series, but it doesn't give you any instructions for the A7, A10 Gold Star and B series. It's all about the A50 and the A65. So a lot of guesswork. It's a nice bit of kit, but I'm not impressed with SRM. And we'll just finish putting the timing cover screws back in. In fact, I'll cheat and we'll do it a quicker way. And just a quick tighten up, make sure they're all nipped up. Right, we'll turn it over. Pull the clutch in. And it's free. I'm not sure if it's supposed to be making that noise then, but it's quite possible that the little bit of noise you hear when you pull the clutch in and I'm turning it over is because that it's a dry clutch. There's no oil or anything in there yet, so I'm kind of hoping that that's all it is, because everything seems fine. So I'm going to put the primary back on. Okay, we're just putting the finishing touches to fitting the primary chain case. So that's the primary tightened up. I've just put the foot peg on and I'm just adjusting the rear brake. I think I've eventually come to the end of this rebuild. The B33 threw a circlip on the piston and it caused major damage in the engine. And I've had it to bits over the last couple of months and put it back together again. I've just been giving the bike the final check before I take it off the ramp and try to start it. I have to admit I'm really apprehensive. Most of the time I've been working on my own here. Well, I have been working on my own. I have had some very good advice from John Moss Robinson, a good friend of mine who runs the Just BSA website. Great website, but most of the time I've been here doing it on my own. So very shortly I'll take it off the ramp, I'll take it outside and keep my fingers crossed and hope that it starts. If it does, I hope you've enjoyed what I've been doing. I'm not an expert, I don't have a huge workshop, but I do my best with what I've got. So I'm just hoping it's going to work. So good. Sadly, I can't get her started. Dead as a doornail. For some reason, nothing's happening. No kickbacks, nothing. It's just completely dead. which is kind of what I feared right from the start, you know, after such a long rebuild. So it's going to have to go back on the ramp, and I'm going to have to try a process of elimination and retime it. I know there's a spark when I take the plug out, I know there's a spark, but something isn't right. So, well, we're back on the ramp. I've taken the tank off. I've taken the rocker box covers off because I want to make sure that the rockers and the valves are moving freely. I've taken the timing side off again because I'm going to check the timing. I've sent away for a special tool. At the moment I've been using a rod to go down the plug hole to measure the depth of the piston for doing the timing. And I have the measurements marked on the rod, and I've used that, and I've used it quite successfully, running great, but this time it hasn't worked. So I've sent away for a proper tool that goes in the plug hole with a proper measured calibrated dial, if you like, that tells you how far the piston's going before top dead centre. Hopefully when that comes in a day or so, I'll be able to do the timing again. At the moment I haven't found anything obvious. I haven't found the reason why it wouldn't start. I've retamed the engine. I'm hoping this time it's going to work. I've retamed it 3/8 before top dead centre for a B33, and I'm going to put it back together and keep my fingers crossed and hope that the old girl will fire up this time. Cheers. So I was lucky enough to meet John Moss Robinson through a friend of a friend. John has been great to me. Thanks, John. He's helped me with loads of things. We live reasonably close together, luckily, so you know, he's never complained once when I've called around and we've had a bit of crack about bikes, and he's been fantastic with all of the advice and the help that he's given me, and I couldn't have done what I've done without John. So once again, John, thanks so much for your help. You know, you help so many people through the Just BSA site and other sites that I know that you're members of, and it's great. When she starts up, I'll be popping round to yours again, John, and you can hear me coming down the street and you think, oh, I wonder who that one is. You probably know who it is because you can remember all of the exhaust notes on all of the bikes. Thanks a lot. Even that was beyond my wildest dreams. The second kick. Unbelievable.